There's a moment, maybe you've already lived it, when someone calls you out in front of peers. Perhaps it's a boss in a conference room, a partner in a quiet kitchen, or a so-called friend publicly questioning your competence. Your blood rushes, your heart pounds. Everything in you wants to leap to your own defense, to correct their narrative, to prove them wrong. That moment, that desperate grasp at validation, is where most people lose their power. Machiavelli understood this primal reflex and dismissed it as weakness. In The Prince, he wrote that people should be either caressed or crushed, and that if you must injure someone, you should do it so severely that you need not fear revenge. That is not the maxim of a man concerned with being liked or understood, and yet centuries later, people still rush to justify themselves at the slightest challenge. They do not recognize that explaining oneself is handing control of the narrative to the accuser. They forget that in power dynamics, appearances can be manipulated, but essence is rarely seen. As dark psychologists know, those who master their reactions master other people. Defending yourself is weakness. Silence is power. That is the counterintuitive law hidden beneath the surface of every conflict. Machiavelli did not compose a pious treatise. He wrote a manual on control. His logic was ruthless but sound. The more you argue your innocence, the more you validate the accusation. Once you start explaining, you descend to your enemy's level. You legitimize their attack. Worse, you reveal your psychological need for approval, which invites more manipulation. Power is about being untouchable, not understood. In a recent analysis of Machiavelli's philosophy, modern commentators noted that he believed perception is reality and that a well-timed silence can be more commanding than any defense. To him, the most powerful response to an accusation is no response at all. This is echoed in Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, which warns that to defend yourself is to shine attention on the very thing you wish to neutralize. Machiavellians weaponize ambiguity. They let their enemies exhaust themselves with speculation while they remain inscrutable. Silence forces others to fill in the blanks, often projecting strength or mystery onto you. Modern psychology confirms what Machiavelli intuited. Humans mean-making machines. When faced with silence, most people experience discomfort. They become desperate to reduce uncertainty. They will invent stories, attribute motives, and reveal their own biases. The more ambiguous you are, the more others reveal themselves. This is the paradox. By saying less, you learn more. Clarity is for therapy. Control is for power. In therapy, you speak to heal yourself. You reveal your wounds, your fears, your past. In power dynamics, you speak to influence others. When you reveal too much, you give away leverage. Dark psychology teaches that controlling perception is controlling reality. People do not see the world as it is. They see what they expect. Machiavelli noted that men in general judge more by the sense of sight than by the sense of touch. They see what you appear to be, not what you truly are. By mastering that appearance, by deliberately withholding explanations, you manipulate their perceptions. Silence becomes a canvas onto which others project their fears and respect. There is also a Stoic twist. Stoicism teaches that the only thing within your control is your own reaction. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke." The Machiavellian Stoic does not seek comfort in self-expression, but strength in self-command. When insulted, he responds with indifference. When challenged, he remains cold. He understands that detachment is not apathy, but strategic mastery. In a world where people are desperate for recognition, the person who seems not to care becomes enigmatic and powerful. This is why Machiavelli wrote that it is safer to be feared than loved. Fear does not require explanation. Imagine a high-stakes meeting. You present a strategy and a rival executive publicly critiques your competence. The room goes silent. All eyes are on you. If you argue, you look defensive. If you apologize, you look weak. The Machiavellian tactic is to say nothing, or to say something so minimal it reveals nothing. You might tilt your head and reply, "Noted," or deliver a calm, cutting, "Is that how you see it?" and leave it at that. The accuser is deprived of drama. Your silence forces them to keep talking, and in the process, they may overreach. Later, you address the issue privately with allies, moving pieces behind the scenes. You maintain your dignity and your mystery. In corporate negotiations, being unreadable is an asset. Suppose a competitor leaks rumors about your company's insolvency. Rather than issuing a frantic rebuttal, you release no comment, then quietly sign a deal that demonstrates stability. The market sees results, not explanations. Those who attacked you appear foolish. The less you say, the more your actions speak for you. In personal relationships, the need to explain oneself often arises from insecurity. A partner accuses you of not caring. You might be tempted to recount every sacrifice you've made. But the more you justify, the more your partner perceives you as needy. A Machiavellian approach is different. You listen, you acknowledge, but you do not defend. I understand that's how you feel. No lengthy explanation. Instead, you reflect on whether the accusation has merit. If it does, you adjust your behavior. If it doesn't, you let time reveal the truth. Your value is demonstrated through action, not through desperate words. This does not mean you are cold for the sake of cruelty. It means you refuse to let someone else's narrative define you. By maintaining detachment, you hold the power to decide your actions based on reason rather than emotional reactivity. In the long run, people respect those who remain composed under fire. As Machiavelli observed, men are driven by love or fear. Those who command respect often invoke a mix of both. On social media, the temptation to defend yourself is constant. A stranger leaves a nasty comment. A rumor spreads. The algorithm rewards emotional engagement. But the Machiavellian Stoic does not feed trolls. He sees that the more he responds, the more visibility he grants the insult. He remembers that the crowd is vulgar and taken by appearances. He knows that by remaining silent, he deprives the attack of oxygen. And because people judge by what they see, they will interpret his silence as confidence rather than guilt. Consider the case of public figures who handle scandals poorly. They issue long apologies, then face endless cycles of criticism. Compare that to those who stay silent or issue a simple statement like, "We are aware of the situation and will address it internally." The latter group controls the narrative because they do not provide fodder for further speculation. In the long run, results and actions define their legacy. Machiavelli would admire their restraint. The power of short responses lies in their ambiguity. Dark psychologists know that people project their own thoughts into the silence. Here are some phrases that signal detachment without inviting argument. Noted. Acknowledge the comment without conceding anything. It shows you heard them, but do not feel the need to justify. Is that how you see it? Reflect the accusation back to the speaker, forcing them to own their perception while you remain uncommitted. I understand. This phrase conveys comprehension without agreement. It diffuses tension by validating the other person's right to feel, without defending yourself. Interesting. A neutral word that can either end the conversation or encourage the other person to reveal more. Silence. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Let the discomfort do the work. These tactics are not meant to manipulate for petty reasons, but to maintain control over yourself and the situation. They prevent you from reacting impulsively and preserve your energy for strategic action. They align with Machiavelli's principle that control is achieved by shaping perceptions rather than by direct confrontation. There is an aura that surrounds those who are detached. It is not arrogance, but an otherworldly calm. In a world addicted to instant gratification and constant validation, detachment is alien. People fear what they do not understand. When you refuse to defend yourself, you signal that you answer to a higher set of principles. You become a figure of quiet authority, someone who does not need the crowd's approval to act. You project that you know something others do not. That aura draws people in. They assume you have secrets worth discovering. They approach you carefully, respect your boundaries, and are cautious to offend you. Machiavelli wrote that the lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. Therefore, a ruler must be both fox and lion. Detachment is the fox's cunning. Silence is the lion's roar. The fox uses silence to sense the field, to notice subtle cues and micro-expressions. The lion uses silence to intimidate, to make others think twice before attacking. Together, they create an aura of unpredictability. You become unclassifiable and thus uncontrollable. Psychologically, detachment allows you to observe rather than react. You become a mirror in which others reveal themselves. When someone attempts to provoke you and you remain unaffected, they lose the game. They may become frustrated, reveal more of their agenda, or even back down. In social hierarchies, the person who appears most unbothered often holds the most power. Their calm suggests they have resources unseen, allies unknown, strategies unspoken. History is littered with the ruins of men who sought validation more than power. They defended themselves endlessly, insisted on being understood, and begged for forgiveness. They mistook explanation for influence. Machiavelli warned that those who try to be good all the time are bound to come to ruin. He knew that human nature is fickle, that love is preserved by obligation, but fear by punishment. He taught that silence and ambiguity are weapons. The Stoics knew that what matters is not what happens, but how you respond. Dark psychology reveals that controlling perception is controlling reality. The next time someone calls you out, remember this: defending yourself is a reflex of the powerless. Silence is the armor of the powerful. If you must speak, speak briefly. If you must act, act decisively. Let your results be your defense, your composure be your weapon. In a world that screams, whisper. In a world that explains, observe. Those who master this art will not only read anyone instantly, but will also dominate without ever lifting a finger. Detachment is not numbness, it is freedom from compulsion. Silence is not weakness, it is concentrated power. The one who can remain calm in the face of chaos is already halfway to ruling it. Become the fox and the lion. Be feared, be loved, but never be understood. Let them write stories about you while you write your own fate. In The Prince, Machiavelli compared the ruler to both a fox and a lion. The fox senses traps, the lion frightens wolves. Reading people is the art of the fox. To master power, you must decode the subtle signals others broadcast unconsciously. Here are 14 tactics, rooted in modern psychology and ancient cunning, that allow you to read anyone instantly while remaining detached and dominant. Establish the baseline. Before you can detect deception or tension, you must know how the person behaves when they are relaxed. Observe their normal speech pace, gestures, and tone. A deviation from baseline is often more telling than any single gesture. As the Stoics noted, reality is not in the event, but in your interpretation. By establishing a baseline, you ensure your interpretation is anchored in observation rather than projection. Decode micro-positives and micro-negatives. Body language experts categorize cues as micro-positive or micro-negative. A micro-positive signals interest, curiosity, or engagement. A micro-negative signals nervousness, disinterest, or boredom. When someone tilts their head and nods, they're engaged. When they block their torso with crossed arms or objects, they're closing themselves off. The Machiavellian observer counts these signals. More micropositives than micronegatives suggest receptivity. The reverse suggests resistance. Watch for shame gestures. Touching the side of the forehead or covering the eyes is a universal indicator of embarrassment. When someone feels exposed, they unconsciously try to hide. In negotiations or arguments, these micro-gestures reveal discomfort with their own words. A person accusing you while touching their face may be projecting their own guilt. Instead of defending yourself, note their shame and let silence amplify it. Observe blocking behavior. Blocking is when a person covers a part of their body with their arms, legs, or objects. This micro-negative indicates a desire to protect themselves, signaling insecurity or withdrawal. If, during a discussion, someone suddenly crosses their arms or holds a coffee cup in front of them, they are creating a barrier. That is your cue to either back off or to press, depending on your strategic aim. Recognize the head tilt. Tilting the head and exposing the ear is a micro-positive. It shows active listening and engagement. When someone tilts and nods while you speak, they are giving you permission to continue. When they straighten and stiffen, the engagement wanes. A Machiavellian uses this information not to please others, but to know when to push, when to retreat, and when to drop a silence that forces others to fill the void. Notice the mouth cover. Covering the mouth is often a sign of holding back truth or feeling embarrassed. Children do it instinctively when lying. Adults do it subtly. A politician promises transparency while touching their lips. A colleague says they agree but covers their mouth. You do not call them out. You simply register the incongruence and adjust your trust accordingly. Read the hands. Open palms indicate honesty and openness. Clenched fists or hidden hands suggest tension or concealment. Hand gestures are powerful micropositives because they keep listeners engaged. When someone speaks with animated hands, they are usually passionate. When their hands disappear under the table, they may be withholding. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." Hands reveal the gap between appearance and reality. Understand micro-expressions. Dr. Paul Ekman identified 7 universal micro-expressions: fear, happiness, contempt, surprise, sadness, anger, and disgust. These fleeting expressions flash across the face in less than a second. Contempt, for example, appears as a unilateral lip curl. Disgust wrinkles the nose. Surprise raises the eyebrows. Happiness crinkles the eyes. Train yourself to catch these signals. They often betray true feelings beneath polite words. When you say nothing and observe, these micro-expressions speak volumes. Listen to tone and pacing. Words can lie. Tone rarely does. When someone's tone drops lower, they might be hiding anger. When it rises higher, they may be anxious or excited. Rapid speech can indicate nervousness. Slowed speech can signal confidence or deliberation. A sudden change in pacing usually reflects a change in comfort level. The Machiavellian Stoic listens not to the story, but to the music beneath it. Watch the eyes, but don't be deceived by myths. It is a myth that people look up and to the left when lying. Eye behavior is more nuanced. Instead, notice blink rate and pupil dilation. Rapid blinking can indicate stress. Dilated pupils can signal arousal or interest. Yet, people can control eye contact. This is why you combine eye cues with other signals to triangulate truth. Check for mirroring. When people like you or agree with you, they unconsciously mirror your body language. They adopt your posture, your gestures, your pace. Mirroring is a micropositive. The absence of mirroring may signal resistance. Machiavellians mirror deliberately to build rapport, but also test whether others mirror them. If they don't, you know you do not yet command their allegiance. Assess proxemics. The distance people keep reveals their comfort. Leaning in is engagement. Leaning back is withdrawal. People who trust you will stand closer. Those who fear you will keep their distance or stiffen. The Machiavellian uses space as both diagnostic and weapon. Stepping closer can intimidate. Stepping back can draw someone in. Use strategic silence and watch the response. People abhor silence. When you fall silent, most rush to fill the gap, often revealing more than they intended. The Machiavellian uses silence as a probe. After asking a pointed question, he remains quiet. The other person, uncomfortable, may confess, clarify, or contradict themselves. Their reaction to your silence, fidgeting, face-touching, changing posture, gives you more information than their words. As Machiavelli's modern interpreter noted, a well-timed silence creates discomfort and projects strength. Apply the stress test. To truly know someone, observe them under pressure. In business, this might mean presenting them with a tight deadline. In personal life, it could be a challenging conversation. Stress amplifies true character. Some become irritable, others become focused, still others crumble. As Machiavelli wrote, all courses of action are risky, so prudence is not in avoiding danger, but in acting decisively. When you apply stress strategically, you see whether someone is fox, lion, or sheep. These 14 tactics are not about manipulating for petty gain. They are about seeing clearly in a world of masks. The Machiavellian Stoic uses them to make decisions based on reality, not on illusion. By reading micro-expressions and body language, by counting micro-positives and micro-negatives, by listening to tone and observing silence, you gain an X-ray vision into hearts and minds. You detach, dominate, and decide with precision. Reading people is only half the game. The other half is what you do with the information. If you use these insights to constantly react, you remain a slave to others' behavior. If you integrate them with strategic silence and detachment, you become the master of the interaction. You watch, you note, you remain calm. You know when to speak and when to keep your mouth shut. You know when a micro-negative means back off or press. You know when to press for clarity and when to let ambiguity work for you. Consider a negotiation scenario. You present an offer. The other party touches their forehead, crosses their arms, and says, "That's interesting." They are embarrassed and defensive. You remain silent. The silence is uncomfortable, so they start justifying why they need a better price. You spot the weakness. You adjust. You let them talk, revealing their true bottom line. When you respond with a calm sentence. "Here's what we can do." There is no defense, only direction. You read, you lead. In a social setting, someone compliments you with a hint of contempt. Their lip curls, a micro-expression of disdain, and they fold their arms. They tilt their head away. Your instinct might be to call them out, but you are a fox. You file this information away. Later, you limit your trust. You do not confide in them. You let them underestimate you while you watch them. They think you are naive. You know they are deceitful. Silence and observation are your shield. In personal relationships, reading micro-cues can prevent manipulation. A friend says they are fine while their voice trembles and they cover their mouth. You know they are lying to themselves. Instead of confronting them and forcing them into defense, you offer presence. You wait. Silence invites honesty. Eventually, they speak. You choose to be compassionate, but you do so from a position of knowledge, not of ignorance. Reading people is not always about domination. Sometimes it is about protecting them and yourself. The dark psychology of reading people is rooted in understanding motives. Not all motives are malicious, but the Machiavellian recognizes that humans, driven by love or fear, often cloak their intentions. By mastering these 14 tactics, you strip away the cloak. You do not rush to defend yourself. You do not expose your hand. You observe, you interpret, you act. Detachment is your armor, perception is your sword. The aura you cultivate through this practice is multifaceted. First, you gain confidence. Knowing that you can read others reduces your fear of being blindsided. Confidence allows you to remain silent without anxiety. Second, you build an aura of competence. People sense that you are not easily rattled. They cannot manipulate you with cheap provocations. Third, you become unpredictable. This unpredictability creates a feeling of respect and, in some, fear. They know you see more than you say. As a result, they treat you carefully. Moreover, detachment helps you avoid the traps of flattery and manipulation. Machiavelli warned that rulers must make men understand that telling the truth will not offend them. If you react emotionally to every compliment or criticism, people learn to push your buttons. If you remain detached, they realize that truth has no punitive consequence and lies have no reward. Your silence teaches them to be honest or to be silent themselves. Over time, you surround yourself with those who value authenticity. Finally, this aura is a gift to yourself. It frees you from the slavery of constant explanation. It allows you to conserve energy. It gives you space to think, strategize, and choose. In a world that demands immediate responses, your delay is a rebellion and an advantage. Your stillness allows you to see patterns others miss. Your silence allows you to hear whispers others can't. Your detachment allows you to move when others are paralyzed by emotion. When you act, your actions carry weight because you do not act lightly. We live in an age of oversharing, an era where every thought is posted, every opinion defended, every emotion broadcast. The machinery of social media rewards performative vulnerability. Yet, as Machiavelli knew, and as the Stoics practiced, those who have true power reveal little and act decisively. The world remembers the decisive acts, not the explanations. You are at a crossroads. You can continue to seek validation, to defend yourself every time someone misunderstands you, to pour your heart out for strangers who neither know nor care about your struggle. Or you can step into the realm of the fox and the lion. You can learn to read the micro-expressions that betray truth. You can pay attention to micro-positives and micro-negatives and adjust your strategy accordingly. You can cultivate an aura of detached power, responding with a "noted" when attacked and moving in silence when plotting. You can remember that clarity is for therapy and that control is for power. The prophetic warning is clear. In the theater of human affairs, those who reveal the least hold the most cards. The prophetic encouragement is equally clear. You have the capacity to master this art. It requires discipline, observation, and the courage to embrace silence. It requires rejecting the comfort of being understood and embracing the strength of being inscrutable. If you master these 14 psychological tactics and combine them with Machiavelli's principle of strategic silence, you will not only read anyone instantly, you will make yourself unreadable. In doing so, you will step outside the ordinary into the realm of those who shape history rather than are shaped by it. Detach and dominate. Observe without reacting. Speak rarely. Act decisively. Let them wonder. Let them fear. Let your silence be the loudest sound they hear.